So as a storyteller, as a researcher, I just started diving in trying to figure out what is artificial intelligence. And I did it purely to understand a technology, not because I actually had any idea what I was going to do about it. So I very quickly realized that it was a very powerful technology that was going to have a major impact on the business world, on marketing, and eventually on society. At that time, again, no one was really talking about it. But that became the only thing people wanted me to come give talks on. So I started traveling the world talking about artificial intelligence. I see this technology announced. I immediately joined the wait list. So I don't have access yet, but you could see what was coming. And I knew how this stuff worked, and I kind of knew where it was going to go. And she said, you know what bothers me about DALL-E? And I said, what? And she said, it's stealing people's imaginations. It's going online, it's learning from things other people created, and then it's taking that from them and creating something new. And I was like, damn, that is literally what it's doing. That is the most profound thing I've actually ever heard anyone say about AI. And in that moment, I realized, like, okay, everything has changed. All we can do as creators is accept this because we cannot pretend like it doesn't exist. And so what we have to ask ourselves is three key questions. What will be lost, what will be gained, and when? Good morning, everyone. Show of hands, how many entrepreneurs in the room? All right, how many creators, like creative? How many entrepreneur creatives? All right, so we got most of the room. So quick backstory, I'm gonna talk for maybe 12, 15 minutes here, and then I'd love to just talk with you all. There's gonna be lots of questions, I would imagine. I spend a lot of my time counseling people, I think, who are fearing for their jobs and their future and humanity. A lot of my talks about marketing and business end up turning into talks about psychology and government and things like that. So we can go wherever you all want. I will give you a little background. So I did grow up in Cleveland on the west side. I went to St. Ignatius, went to Ohio University Journalism School, graduated in 2000, started an agency, started my own agency in 2005. If you want to go the entrepreneur route, we can talk about that. Borrowed $25,000 from a family member to get the business started. That was the first of many borrowings to keep the business going through all the years. In 2007, we became HubSpot's first partner. Anybody in the room use HubSpot or familiar with HubSpot? Okay, it's like a $20 billion company now, but in those days it was a startup, and they had 20 employees when we started working with them. So I saw an early opportunity to shift. So if you think back to 2005, YouTube was created in 2005. Twitter and Facebook became publicly available in 2006. The iPhone was created in 2007. So it was a very transformational time when I was building an agency, and the world was changing, the way people found information was changing, the way we created was changing. And so we were very early in that movement. And in 2011, I actually wrote my first book. So it was called The Marketing Agency Blueprint. And in a weird way, so the book was basically like 10 rules for building a modern marketing agency. I wrote that over an 87-day period starting in April. 2 months prior to that, IBM Watson won on Jeopardy! I don't know if anybody remembers Watson defeating Brad Rutter and Ken Jennings on Jeopardy! So after I finished the manuscript for my book, I actually started going and doing research on Watson, saying, what is this technology? And there was a very specific use case for marketing I was trying to solve. When I graduated from college, there was like 5 to 10 ways to spend your marketing budget. So you could do direct mail, you could do ads, you could do PR, you could do comms, whatever, trade shows. By 2011, there was like 10,000 ways to spend your budget. There's social media channels, creators, all this stuff. And so I'd become convinced that the human mind was incapable of building an optimal marketing strategy. That clients were coming to us saying, how do we spend our $100,000 or our $1 million? And I realized, I actually have no idea. All I have is my experience and knowledge, but there's this whole world that I don't understand. So as a storyteller, as a researcher, I just started diving in trying to figure out what is artificial intelligence. And I did it purely to understand a technology, not because I actually had any idea what I was going to do about it. So I very quickly realized that it was a very powerful technology that was going to have a major impact on the business world, on marketing, and eventually on society. But there was nowhere really to apply it to business and marketing. Nobody was really writing or talking about it at the time. So that became my thing. I just started trying to kind of theorize, once this technology is readily available, what's going to happen in business and society. And so in 2014, I wrote my second book called The Marketing Performance Blueprint, and it was about talent, technology, and strategy. In the technology chapter, or chapters, there was about 700 words out of a 50,000 word manuscript about artificial intelligence. It was just like, I basically took 3 years of what I had learned and said, hey, what if AI becomes infused into everything we do in marketing? Like, it'll change everything. At that time, again, no one was really talking about it. But that became the only thing people wanted me to come give talks on. So I started traveling the world talking about artificial intelligence in marketing and business, but then I would get pulled into meetings with like deans of colleges, like major colleges, and they're asking me like, what is going on? Like, what's going to happen with this technology? So I started like crossing over to be like the guy who understood AI can explain it to other people. So 2016 rolls around, we're kind of batting around, a guy in my agency comes in. I used to have like just office hours on Thursdays, happy hour office hours. And he's like, what are you going to do with that AI stuff? Like, it's really fascinating. And he had helped me do the research for the chapter I wrote. And I was like, I don't know, like, we got to do something. So I'm like cutting my grass that week, and I was like, screw it. Like, we should create an institute around it. Like, let's just start telling the story of AI. So literally next week, I just create the Marketing AI Institute. It was a part of our agency. It's just like a DBA of the agency. We launched a domain, launched a blog, and we just started writing about artificial intelligence. Within probably the first 12 months, we had like 5,000 subscribers to this blog. All the major venture capital firms in the world, all the analyst firms, some major investors, some billionaire names you would know, started following what we were writing because they were starting to see it too. So fast forward to 2018, the entrepreneur side of the story, I am just burning cash. So my agency is profitable, but it's really hard to tell how profitable because my time is now like 90% dedicated to the AI Institute, which isn't making money yet. So I have this like thing that I'm spending all my time on. I'm diverting other top talent in the agency to work on this thing because I'd become convinced it was going to change everything. I just didn't know when it was going to happen. And so it was literally like the week before Christmas, 2018, I'm sitting there with Tracy, who's now my COO at the Institute. She was my VP of talent. And I'm like, I have no idea if we're profitable. Like, I have to get this institute has to get out of this agency. Because by that point, we'd announced we were going to do a conference, the Marketing AI Conference in 2019 in Cleveland. So I'm now committed to like a $500,000 budget to run an event that I don't even know if anybody's going to show up for. I have all this space at the convention center. And so on the ride home, this is the joke, like, so the first $25,000 I had to borrow in 2005, I had to get from a family member because I had no access to the money. Like, I didn't have that kind of money. I was making $50,000 a year. So on the ride home, I called my banker. I was like, I need $50,000 tomorrow. I'm gonna like start this business. I need the money, put it in an account. So yeah, no problem. So okay, so once you have money, you can get money. But if you're an entrepreneur and you're starting, you can't get money. Like, you have to beg and borrow. So 50K, it's like whatever, so start an account, and then I put my own 50K, and then I put another 75K. It's like I'm just like pouring money into this vision of like, this is gonna happen. And then we get into 2019, it was a success. We got 300 people from 12 countries to come to Cleveland for an AI event, and people laughed at me. My friends on the East and West Coast, like, you're gonna bring AI to Cleveland? Like, why would anybody go to Cleveland for that? Lost a bunch of money in 2019, pandemic hits 2020, lost a bunch more money. 2021, no one's traveling events, lost a bunch more money. 2022, no one really understood AI yet, lost a bunch more money again. In the process, I had raised $1 million seed round. So it's like I had seen all this coming and kind of kept playing a few levels ahead to like keep the business afloat until like we got to this point. So then kind of jump into like the AI part of this story. So 2021, April, I'm on vacation with my family. My agency is now like 15 years old. It's great, like most profitable it's ever been. Life's good. Spending time with my family. Like, I don't work crazy hours. I stopped doing that when my daughter was born in 2012. And so I'm on vacation. I'm listening to this book called Genius Makers by Cade Metz. He's a New York Times AI writer. And he's telling the story of artificial intelligence starting in 2011. So AI goes back to like the 1950s. They've been working on these ideas that we can make machines intelligent. We could give software and hardware like human-like intelligence and language and vision and things like that. So I'm listening to this book, and he's like, he's embedded inside the major research labs, going back to 2011, and he tells the story of basically this breakthrough that happened where they were able to teach the machine to recognize objects. So previously, if you wanted an AI, this is the irony of artificial intelligence, if you wanted to teach a toddler the difference between a dog and a cat, you'd be like, a 2-year-old, this is a dog, this is a cat. The 2-year-old's gonna know the difference between a dog and a cat the rest of its life, one time. To teach a machine, you have to show it 1,000,000 pictures of a dog, 1,000,000 pictures of a cat, and then you have to tell it each time whether or not it gets it right. So it's going to guess, is it a dog, is it a cat? And you're like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. It's called machine learning. You're like, it's learning from inputs. So in 2011, there's this breakthrough, and it starts this major rush to acquire all the AI talent in the world. So Google gets this dude named Jeff Hinton, who had created this deep learning that was able to recognize objects. Facebook goes and gets a guy named Jan LeCun, who's like one of the godfathers of modern AI. He goes and builds a research lab at Facebook. Google then buys a company called DeepMind, this guy named Demis Hassabis, who I think will probably be the most important person of our generation, if you haven't heard his name before. So I'm listening to all this like, oh my God, like this is why in 2015, when I was looking around trying to figure out where's all the AI, it wasn't there yet. Because these breakthroughs had just happened in 2011 when I was just starting to research it. And so now we had proved its potential, but it hadn't been like kind of democratized and commercialized yet. And so in that moment, I'm like walking around Florida at this resort, and I'm like, I have to sell my agency. So what I realized is every second I was spending on someone else's business, working for other clients, I wasn't figuring out where AI was going. And for me, I had a motivation, not only from a business perspective, but my kids are 11 and about to turn 10. So at the time, they were, 8 and 7. And I didn't know what their future was going to look like. So I knew what AI is capable of. I have a general vision of what I think is going to happen in society and to the workforce and to humanity. And I don't know what that's going to look like for them in like 5 years. And then if you think about 10 years, it gets really, really hard to project their future. And so for me, I actually started working on AI very intently in 2016. Marketing was my foot in the door, but it was just a path to actually ensure that this is done in the most responsible way possible, that AI is applied across business and humanity in a responsible way. So fast forward to last year, has anyone ever played with a generative AI, like image generation, like graphic design, illustrations, like DALL-E, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion? Okay. So if you haven't seen this, you can get it for free. So there's a tool called DALL-E, came out in spring of 2022, and you could give a text prompt, like, create a person walking down the city streets in Cleveland as a 3D render, and it'll do it in like 8 seconds. It'll create an original image for you, 4 of them, that you can then pick and edit with words. So it democratized the ability to create images with text prompts. So when I saw this announced, I thought, holy shit, like my wife is a painting major. She's an artist. My daughter wants to be an artist. So I'm up in my home office. I see this technology announced. I immediately joined the wait list. So I don't have access yet, but you could see what was coming. And I knew how this stuff worked, and I kind of knew where it was going to go. So I went downstairs to my wife, and I was like, I don't even know how to explain this to you, but I showed her DALL-E, and I showed her like what it was going to do. And I was trying to explain like the impact this was going to have on illustrators and designers, and I was kind of at a loss for what to do about it. So then, fast forward to June, I got access to it. So I got access in the morning, sitting out on my back patio with a glass of scotch, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to give this a go. So it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I give my first prompt, and it does it. Tamara's here. Like, I was on our Zoom, I'm like messaging them, like, holy shit, guys, look at this. And so they're sending me things to like prompt the machine to generate, and it's doing it. And in that moment, I realized, like, okay, everything has changed. Like, there are moments in history where you feel like something has transformed what's about to happen in society, and that was one of those moments for me. So the next day, I'm debating, do I show my daughter? So my daughter's 10 at the time. And she's a very deep thinker. She knows more about AI than the average CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Like, she really understands how this stuff works. And so I said, I need to show you something. I need you to sit down and, like, show you this. And she's like, what is it? And I was like, it's AI. She's like, I don't want to see any AI stuff. She could care less about AI, like doesn't want to interact with it. So I said, I need you to give me something you would want to create. And she said, I really don't want to do this. I said, no, I think it's very important that we do this together. So she said, fine, a fat, fluffy unicorn dancing on rainbows. So I put it in, and 8 seconds later, 6 fat, fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows shows up. She looks at me, gets up, and walks out of the room. Won't talk to me about it. So that night I said, do you want to talk about it? She said, no, I don't want to talk about it. Okay. So a month goes by. It's July 2022. I'm on my back patio again. I'm building my presentation, my opening keynote for our Marketing AI conference that was going to be in August. She comes back out. She sits down. I said, can we talk about when I showed you the Dolly thing? And she said, fine, what do you want to talk about? I said, what did you feel when I showed it to you? Because I want to do a talk about AI and creativity for my keynote. I want to deal with the issues people are going to have around this technology, doing the things that they find fulfilling in their life. Like this is approaching on things that fulfill people, as Tom was saying. Like, you know, it's like, this is hard to deal with. And she said, I don't like AI like you do. And I said, Isla, I don't like that it does this. Like, your mother's a painter, I'm a writer, you want to be a designer, a painter, whatever. I don't like that it's doing it. I'm trying to understand it so I can help people like you and mommy to prepare for it. And she's like, fine. So then we talked a little bit. So then that night we're laying in bed, and she said, you know what bothers me about Dolly? And I said, what? And she said, it's stealing people's imaginations. It's going online, it's learning from things other people created, and then it's taking that from them and creating something new. And I was like, damn, that is literally what it's doing. That is the most profound thing I've actually ever heard anyone say about AI, because that's exactly what it's doing. It learns from data, from images on the internet. It diffuses them down, basically this picture breaking down to the pixel level. It learns the context of all these different related things, and then when you ask it to do something, it recreates it based on its learning. Now, it's an original image. It's like not ever been seen, but that's what it's doing, exactly what she said. And then she said, I don't ever want my artwork online because I don't want anyone to take my imagination. It's what makes me who I am. I was like, damn. So that's kind of like where we are today. So I wrote something called, I said, I don't remember what the title of the blog post was, but I basically arrived at this point for all creators, entrepreneurs, because what happened with AI is it was supposed to come after labor first. It was supposed to come after blue-collar work, repetitive manufacturing-like tasks. What we weren't ready for with humanity was it actually came for knowledge and creative work first. And it's coming very fast. What we're seeing today is going to look like preschool level stuff in 12 months. So the AI is going to keep getting better and better and better. And so I had come to realize this back when I first saw Dolly. And so I wrote something and said, basically, like, the AI is going to come for the things we find fulfilling. All we can do as creators is accept this, because we cannot pretend like it doesn't exist. And so what we have to ask ourselves is 3 key questions. What will be lost, what will be gained, and when? So if I am an artist, if I am a musician, if I am a video producer, if I'm a writer, something is going to be taken from you. There's going to be a piece of the thing that you thought was uniquely human that all of a sudden a machine can do as well or better than you. And it's a very, very hard thing to accept. But if you do accept that, and then you move to like, okay, but what can I gain? What can I now do with this technology I couldn't do before? Maybe it's producing more. Maybe it's being more creative. That's the key thing to me to find hope in all of this, is that we can actually gain something as humans from the AI. And the key question in your career is, when is this going to happen? And if you are a creator, I will tell you it's happening right now. And so, again, whether you're a writer, video, image, audio, because the 4 key areas generative AI comes for is language, mainly, writing, audio. You can ask it to create a song for you in seconds, and it can do it now. Video is another key area, and then the images. So anywhere where anything is created, you're going to be able to create it with language. To give you a sense of how fast this stuff is moving, the image generation, if you haven't seen it, is mind-blowing. But what's about to happen with video and all these other generative areas is the stuff that's going to make it really, really hard. So if we can get it up, I have a quick video from a company called Runway. So it's runwayml.com is the name of the site. And they just released something called Video to Video. Yeah, let's see if this plays. Do we have audio too? Okay, in theory. Yeah, this is the right video. We're on a good path so far.
Image generation models have taken the world by storm. It's now possible for anyone to turn their ideas into images using nothing but words. The explosion of creativity these models unleashed was years in the making. In 2021, Runway introduced latent diffusion, an AI system that was able to generate realistic images using an improved image generation technique. And in 2022, Stable Diffusion, a further improved version of latent diffusion that caused a tidal wave of creativity and mass adoption of the technology. Today, Runway is excited to introduce the next step forward in generative AI, Gen 1, a video generation AI system that can efficiently generate video in any style, all while retaining quality and flexibility. Gen 1 is able to realistically and consistently apply the composition and style of an image or text prompt to the target video, allowing you to generate new video content using an existing video. We call this approach video to video, and we're incredibly excited to share a few early use cases. Stylization mode. Transfer the style of any image or prompt to every frame of your video. Storyboard mode. Turn mockups into fully stylized and animated renders. Mask mode. Isolate subjects in your video and modify them with simple text prompts. Render mode. Turn untextured renders into realistic outputs by applying an input image or prompt. And customization mode. Unleash the full power of Gen 1 by customizing the model for even higher fidelity results. Gen 1 represents a pivotal step forward in generative AI, one that brings us meaningfully closer to realizing the future of storytelling.
Thank you. So I live this stuff every day. I have for 12 years, and then there's days where I see something and think, I didn't see that coming. Like, how is this even possible? How are we here? And this tech, like, you can join the wait list right now, but you can go follow people who have early access to it, and they are doing stuff like you've seen in the videos. Like, it's insane. And so I'll kind of wrap up here with, I think what is about to happen, the generative AI space is going to give people who weren't designers and writers the power of those capabilities. So it's going to make bad writers good writers. It's going to make people with no design ability like me the ability to now design things, create things. I believe the advantage belongs to the existing experts and professionals, though. Because if you're a designer, the key to getting an output from these machines is your ability to prompt it for what you're looking for. So the better you can explain the style, the lighting, the image, like the tone, I can't do that. I can't tell the machine what I want because I can't explain it. Like when my wife has ideas for art stuff or our house, it's like, draw it. Like I can't even understand what you're envisioning in your head. So I think the people who are the designers, the video producers, the writers, the musicians, if they embrace it and they look at what can be gained from this technology, I think they have a massive leg up to not only get value from the tech, but to create value. And the more people we have that are curious and experimenting, the more chance we have for this to go right. And I like to go to bed every night thinking this is going to be a net positive for humanity, but it's going to require a lot of us working in the same direction to make that possible. Thank you.